Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world, with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 1 hour. Iran refuses to halt its nuclear program, including uranium enrichment, even as it accepts severe damage to its facilities after the US strikes. Iran, Russia and China to go into a huddle today. Trump administration releases Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination files despite concerns from the family that the records could be used for attacks on his enduring legacy. Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankhar resigns from the post citing medical reasons, expresses gratitude to the President, Prime Minister Modi and members of the Indian Parliament for their support. And ISRO set to launch NISAR, a joint satellite with NASA, on the 30th of July. NASA-ISRO synthetic aperture radar will scan the entire globe every 12 days. In chess, India's Divya Deshmukh stuns compatriot Harika Drodavali to enter the semi-finals of FIDE Women's World Cup 2025. A very good morning to all the viewers joining us at this morning broadcast. To begin with the latest, a trilateral meeting between Iran, Russia and China will take place today to discuss Tehran's nuclear program and the United Nations snapback mechanism. The meeting between Iran, China and Russia will take place in Tehran at the level of Foreign Ministry Director Generals. Britain, France and Germany, known as the E3, have warned that they would use the mechanism which would reimpose international sanctions on the Islamic Republic if there was no progress on nuclear talks by the end of August. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister said there were currently no plans to resume nuclear talks with the United States, with whom Tehran held 5 rounds of indirect negotiations prior to Israel's strikes on Iran last month. Baghei will hold nuclear talks with the E3 and European Union diplomats on Friday in Istanbul. He added that Tehran would also seek answers because the countries did not condemn the Israeli and the US strikes. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that Iran has no plans to abandon its nuclear program, including uranium enrichment, despite severe damage to its facilities after the US strikes last month. He stressed that any future nuclear deal would have to contain the right to enrichment. Now, regarding negotiations with the United States to de-escalate regional tension, Araghchi said, "We are open to talks, but not direct for the time being," quote-unquote. Araghchi also confirmed that Iran would continue to develop and manufacture missiles. Araghchi's remarks comes as Tehran is set to hold new talks on its nuclear program with Germany, France and the United Kingdom on Friday in Istanbul.
Stopped because, yes, damages are serious and severe, but obviously we cannot give up our enrichment because it is an achievement of our own scientists, and now more than that, it is a question of national pride. If they are coming for a win-win solution, I am ready to engage with them. I mean that we are ready to do any confidence-building measure needed to prove that Iran's nuclear program is peaceful and would remain peaceful forever, and Iran would never go for nuclear weapons, and in return, we expect them to lift their sanctions. This is a win-win game, and we are ready to engage in that.
Meanwhile, Tehran blamed European powers for the failure of the 2015 nuclear deal, accusing them of breaking their commitments, which lifted sanctions on Iran in return for restrictions on its nuclear program. The US withdrew from the pact in 2018. His remarks come ahead of a meeting on Friday in Istanbul between Iranian officials and representatives from Britain, France and Germany to discuss the future of the nuclear deal.
The European parties have been at fault both due to negligence and failure to fulfill their obligations under the JCPOA.
And now to get you more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre from Newsroom. Good morning, Akshay. Now, Iran continues to stress on expansion of uranium enrichment program despite the warnings coming from the US and the E3. First, help us understand the importance of this uranium enrichment program and why is this being opposed?
Well, Deepika, for us to have a better understanding of whatever is happening between Iran and the Western powers as far as the issue of nuclear power is concerned, nuclear enrichment is concerned, is to understand what is nuclear enrichment. So it is a process, a very scientific, highly complicated process of isolating the isotopes of a particular element. For example, the uranium-235 that is used in nuclear facilities, both for generating power from nuclear sources as well as the same enriched uranium can be used. Uranium can be used in nuclear weapons as well. So it's a two-way street. If you are trying to go for clean energy, nuclear energy, then you have to do the nuclear enrichment, the uranium enrichment, especially in this case, and the same enriched uranium can be used later on in the weapons. So Iran has been maintaining. So that is the problem here. The Western powers do not want the enrichment program of Iran to continue for two reasons. One is the standing of Iran as far as a country, as far as a nation that has the capability of generating nuclear power will enhance the status of Iran. It will get much more stronger in the region. The second is also an apprehension coming in from the Western allies, from Israel, from the US, that Iran has a lot of reserves of natural resources such as petroleum, gas. So why exactly is Iran, is in such a rush to go ahead with its nuclear enrichment program? And there are speculations and apprehensions that this enriched uranium can be used for, or rather is going to be used only for making of a bomb. So there is this trust divide between or deficit between the two elements here, between the two camps here, between Iran and the Western allies, and they do not want Iran to go ahead with nuclear enrichment because they feel that the enriched uranium or any other element will ultimately be used as a weapon, as a bomb, and that will destabilize the region. Back to you, Deepika.
So, in the current scenario, Akshay, what can we expect from today's talks?
Well, one thing we have gotten to know for sure is that Iran is going to continue with its nuclear program, and it is calling this a peaceful program, saying that it is only for nuclear energy, and the enriched uranium or the other elements that it wants to go ahead with will only be used for peaceful purposes. However, there is a lot of trust deficit, clearly, as we have seen. So there is no point of Iran going, or rather backing down just on the promises of the West, because there have been a lot of trust deficit between the two. The second meeting that is going to take place between Russia, China and Iran is certainly going to, in all probability rather, going to be going into discussing that what if sanctions come in from the European Union and the US at the same time. So how the economy of Iran will stay afloat, especially with the help of China and Russia. It's a preparatory meeting because as far as the nuclear talks are concerned, it doesn't seem that anything significant is going to come out from the meeting, at least till the month of August.
All right. Thank you so much, Akshay, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on the latest development. Moving on. The U.S. Justice Department unveiled over 240,000 pages of records tied to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, including FBI files that surveilled and attempted to discredit him. Now, the documents shared by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, online in the National Archives shed light on Cold War era abuses. Now, King, a civil rights icon, was killed in the year 1968 while broadening his mission to include economic justice and peace. His family called for empathy when reviewing the files and condemned the misuse of the documents. Now, the release follows similar disclosures about John and Robert Kennedy as part of a push for transparency ordered by the Trump administration. In a latest update on Ukraine-Russia conflict, Russia and Ukraine will hold new peace talks on Wednesday as a follow-up to 2 rounds in Istanbul that made little progress on ending their conflict, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced. Zelensky said in his daily address on Monday that he had discussed with Rustem Umerov the preparation for a prisoner exchange and another meeting with the Russian side in Turkey. Earlier, Ukraine and Russia have held 2 rounds of talks in Istanbul that led to the exchange of thousands of prisoners of war and the remains of dead soldiers.
I discussed with Rustem Umerov the preparation for a prisoner exchange and another meeting with the Russian side in Turkey. Umerov reported that the meeting is planned for Wednesday. More details will follow tomorrow.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said Ukraine is ready for the 3rd round of negotiations with Russia in Istanbul and insists on a ceasefire. In a joint press conference with French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot in Kyiv, he emphasized that the Ukrainian side has yet to see such readiness from Russia, which is why Ukraine has proposed that any strategic discussions should take place at the level of Presidents Zelensky and Putin, with the involvement of the US and Turkish presidents as well as European leaders.
It is important that future talks, once the dates are agreed, are concrete, that the other side has the mandate to discuss the most important issues, such as ending the war, achieving ceasefire. So far, we have not noted this. Therefore, in order to be able to discuss such strategic issues, one of the proposals is to hold a meeting at the level of Zelensky and Putin with the participation of, this would be very beneficial, of US President Trump, European leaders, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan.
Earlier, Ukrainian President Zelensky appointed over a dozen new ambassadors during a big shakeup that has seen him replace top cabinet officials and envoys to shore up relations with Washington and isolate Russia internationally. According to decrees published on the presidential website, envoys to Spain, Estonia, Belgium and Japan, as well as to Canada, South Africa, Kenya and the United Arab Emirates were among the new appointees. Now, Germany and Norway have announced tighter surveillance across the North Atlantic to counter growing maritime and airborne risk, particularly in light of ongoing tensions with Russia. Meeting in Berlin, Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store emphasized protecting key regions such as the GIUK and Bear Gaps, which is a crucial naval passages once closely monitored during the Cold War. In a joint statement, both the countries reaffirmed strong support for Ukraine and committed to safeguarding underwater infrastructure. The move strengthens joint naval patrols and reflects deeper NATO coordination to enhance stability across the high North, North Sea and Baltic regions. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. After the break, we'll get your latest update on Dhaka Air Force training jet crash. White House restricts Wall Street Journal access to Trump over Epstein story. And Sakarya wildfires in Turkey reaches into 2nd day. Evacuation continues amid widespread summer blaze.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after a short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Now, European Union's Defence Commissioner has said that Europe needs to boost its defence capabilities as the United States seeks to focus on countering China. In a speech in Washington, Andrius Kubilius said Europe is preparing to take responsibility for its own defence. President Donald Trump has pushed for increased military burden sharing with Europe since returning to the office earlier this year, with NATO allies agreeing last month to boost their defence spending. Now, the United States has for years identified China as its primary military rival and has sought to shift its focus and additional military assets to Asia. But unrest in the West Asia has repeatedly pulled American attention back to that region, with the US assets being shifted at least temporarily away from Asia as a result. The White House on Monday barred the Wall Street Journal from traveling with US President Donald Trump during his upcoming visit to Scotland. The move now comes just days after Trump sued the WSJ and its owner Rupert Murdoch for at least $10 billion over the allegation related to Jeffrey Epstein in an article that Trump denies. Trump will head to Scotland next week, visiting areas where his family owns 2 golf courses and is opening a 3rd one. The President will meet British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to discuss trade ahead of an official state visit to Britain in the month of September. US President Donald Trump was caught off guard by recent Israeli strikes on Syria. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Monday said that Trump quickly called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to rectify the situation. Leavitt's comments came days after Israel launched airstrikes in Damascus, while also hitting government forces in the south, demanding they withdraw. Israel aimed to protect Syrian Druze, part of a small but influential minority that also has followers in Lebanon and Israel. The airstrikes blew up part of Syria's defense ministry and hit near the presidential palace.
He was caught off guard by the bombing in Syria and also the bombing of a Catholic church in Gaza, which, as you know, I addressed at my briefing last week. And in both accounts, the president quickly called the prime minister to rectify those situations.
US President Donald Trump has ordered the Justice Department to release additional documents pertaining to its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Talking to the media, White House Press Secretary Leavitt said the US President has told Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel to release any credible evidence that they find against Epstein.
The president has told the Attorney General and the FBI Director to release any credible evidence that they find, and he also signaled to them over the weekend to move forward with unsealing the grand jury documents that were under seal by various judges across the country, and I believe the Attorney General has taken the proper legal action to do that.
Harvard University presented its case in federal court on Monday, arguing that the Trump administration's $2.6 billion cuts in federal funding were illegal and detrimental to its research operations. President Donald Trump's administration has battered Harvard University with sanctions for months as it presses a series of demands on the Ivy League school, which it decries as a hotbed of liberalism and anti-Semitism. Harvard has resisted, and the lawsuit over the cuts to its research grants that represents the primary challenge to the administration in a standoff. A federal judge on Monday challenged the Trump administration's reasons for slashing billions of dollars in federal funding to Harvard University, triggering a furious response from the president. The judge pressed the administration's lawyer to explain how cutting grants to diverse research budgets would help protect students from alleged campus anti-Semitism. Venezuela said on Monday it is opening a formal investigation into several Salvadoran officials, including President Nayib Bukele, over the alleged abuse of Venezuelan migrants deported from the United States. Venezuelan Attorney General Tariq William Saab held a press conference on Monday to address the alleged mistreatment and talking about their experience at the prison. He said officials have gathered around 123 complaints of abuse, including reports of sexual assault, torture and beatings by by Salvadoran prison guards. More than 250 Venezuelans held in El Salvador's notorious C-Court prison returned to Venezuela on Friday under the terms of a prisoner exchange agreed with the United States. The released migrants have not yet been reunited with their families in Venezuela. Authorities said they are undergoing health, immigration and criminal background checks, among other procedures. The leftist leaders of Spain and 4 South American nations met in Chile on Monday to appeal for unity in the face of U.S. protectionism and a rise in extremism worldwide. They gathered under the motto "Democracy Always" against the backdrop of U.S. President Donald Trump's expanding tariff war and America's worsening ties with several erstwhile allies. Chilean President Gabriel Boric opened the summit with counterparts Luis Inácio Lula da Silva of Brazil, Gustavo Petro of Colombia, Uruguay's Yamandu Orsi and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. The topic is all at the heart of Brazil's ongoing clash with Trump's administration, which has targeted a judge who's involved in Bolsonaro's coup trial and has made a number of rulings against platforms and individuals spreading falsehood online. Boric said he had invited Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Canada's Mark Carney to the meeting, but they were unable to attend. A sweeping cyber espionage operation targeting Microsoft server software compromised about 100 organizations as of the weekend. Microsoft on Saturday issued an alert about active attacks on self-hosted SharePoint servers, which are widely used by organizations to share documents and collaborate within organizations. Dubbed a zero-day, the hacks allow spies to penetrate vulnerable servers and potentially drop a backdoor to secure continuous access to victim organizations. Now, the Shadow Server Foundation confirmed the 100 figure. It said most of those affected were in the United States and Germany, and the victims included government organizations. Microsoft said it had provided security updates and encourages customers to install them. It was not clear who was behind the ongoing hack, but Alphabet's Google said it tied at least some of the hacks to a China Nexus threat actor. Moving on, the death toll in Bangladesh aircraft crash risen to 27 on Tuesday morning, while 78 others are receiving treatment at different hospitals. Mortal remains of 20 passengers of the ill-fated aircraft have been handed over to the family members. The F-7 aircraft of Bangladesh Air Force took off for a training flight and crashed shortly after into Milestone School and College campus on Monday afternoon. The Bangladesh government has declared a one-day state mourning following the incident. Now, in the U.S., the Federal Aviation Administration said on Monday that it is investigating a near miss between a SkyWest Airlines jet and a U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber over North Dakota on Friday. SkyWest Flight 3788, operating as a Delta connection flight from Minneapolis to Minot, landed safely after executing a go-around when another aircraft became visible in its flight path. The pilot's announcement, recorded by a passenger, describes the tense moment as the crew spotted what appeared to be a military plane heading towards them. The pilot also noted lack of radar at the Minot Tower that relies on visual observation and questioned why no warning was issued about the presence of a B-52 in the pattern. The incident comes amid ongoing concerns over close calls between military and commercial aircraft. Argentina's aviation sector is in uproar as 5 unions staged a protest at Buenos Aires' Jorge Newbery Airport on the 21st of July. The demonstration came against regulatory changes, wage delays, layoffs and privatization policies. Workers cited concerns over President Javier Milei's open sky policy, claiming it compromises air safety by allowing foreign airlines to operate without Argentine oversight. As per the cabin crew, their wages lag by up to 60%, with the inflation adding pressure. Despite the disruption, flights remained on schedule. The protest coincided with the start of a winter break, drawing attention to a mounting labour crisis in the country's public airline sector. Moving on now, let's get you all the latest on weather. First up from Turkey, where planes and helicopters doused wildfire flames in northwestern province of Sakarya on Monday as the blaze entered its second day. According to Turkish news agency, several villages in the vicinity of the wildfire have been evacuated. Now, notably, hundreds of wildfires have broken out across West Asian country this summer, forcing tens of thousands of people to temporarily evacuate their homes. In Vietnam, Typhoon Vipa made landfall along the coastal region this morning. Many areas in the Red River Delta, northern coastal provinces are experiencing heavy to very heavy rainfall. The typhoon is edging slowly towards Vietnam and is set to cross the coast near the northern port city of Hai Phong around Tuesday noon, bringing heavy rain that could lead to flash flooding. Airlines have also cancelled and rescheduled dozens of flights, and some airport, port and train services have been suspended. While in Thailand, heavy rainfall with strong winds and dangerous sea conditions are expected due to the influence of a strong southwest monsoon and the impending landfall of severe tropical storm. Typhoon Vipa is likely to trigger isolated heavy to very heavy rainfall in the north, northeast, central and eastern regions of the country. Residents in these areas are urged to remain vigilant as heavy rainfall may lead to flash floods and overflows, particularly in low-lying areas and near the foothills. Heavy rain has been lashing Florida since the start of the week, triggering floods advisory and disrupting daily life in several regions across the state. With more rainfall expected through midweek, flash flood warnings remain in effect. Officials are urging the residents to stay indoors, avoid flooded areas and follow real-time advisories. Meanwhile, monsoon has tightened its grip across India, with the Met Department issuing an orange alert for Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Maharashtra, Goa and Telangana. Due to heavy rainfall and landslides over the past 48 hours in northern Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, the Manali-Chandigarh highway remains blocked near Dwara in Mandi district since Monday. Indian Meteorological Department has issued an orange alert for heavy to very heavy rainfall in parts of Himachal Pradesh, including Mandi, for the next 24 hours. A relentless heat wave has engulfed parts of European tourist spot Sicily, with temperatures pushing well past 40 degrees Celsius, leaving the residents and tourists scrambling for shade, hydration and relief from the heat. In Nuova, after cited as one of the hottest towns in Italy, traffic crawled through sun-baked streets as digital thermometers showed searing midday highs. Meanwhile, in Catania, on the island's eastern coast, visitors crowded around public fountains and huddled under umbrellas in a desperate attempt to escape the sun. The extreme temperatures are part of a broader heat wave sweeping across southern Europe, triggering red weather alerts in multiple Italian regions. Authorities have advised people to avoid outdoor activity during peak hours and stay hydrated. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. We'll get you the latest update from the monsoon session of the ongoing Indian Parliament's legislative agenda. India and Korea Coast Guard held 13th high-level meeting. Cooperation in maritime research and rescue discussed. And after the break, we'll get you a special report on Nao Bui Rua occasion of Assam.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
save your country.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time to quickly recap top headlines of the hour. Iran refuses to halt its nuclear program, including uranium enrichment, even as it accepts severe damage to its facilities after US strikes. Iran, Russia and China to go into a huddle today. Trump administration releases Martin Luther King Jr. assassination files despite concerns from family that the records could be used for attacks on his enduring legacy. Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankhar resigns from the post citing medical reasons, expresses gratitude to the President, Prime Minister and members of the Parliament for their support. ISRO set to launch NISAR, a joint satellite with NASA on 30th of July. NASA-ISRO synthetic aperture radar will scan the entire globe every 12 days. And in chess, India's Divya Deshmukh stunts compatriot Harika Dronavili to enter the semi-finals of FIDE Women's World Cup. Now, in a latest development, India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar has officially tendered his resignation, citing that he wishes to prioritize healthcare and abide by medical advice. The announcement came on late Monday evening through an official communique from the Vice President's official Twitter handle. 74 years old Jagdeep Dhankhar has been serving the Vice President post of India from the 11th of August 2022 till the 21st of July 2025. All right, let's now take a look at the legislative business for today in both the houses of the Indian Parliament. In Rajya Sabha, or the upper house of the Indian Parliament, Ports, Shipping and Waterways Minister Sarbanand Sonowal will move the carriage of goods by Sea Bill 2025 for consideration and passing. The bill attempts to modernize, update legal framework as well as enhance ease of doing business in India's maritime sector. In Lok Sabha, or the lower house, Union Minister Sarbanand Sonowal will move the Merchant Shipping Bill 2024 for consideration and passing. This bill was first introduced in the Lok Sabha on the 10th of December back in the year 2024. The bill will replace the Act of 1958 to registration and ownership of ships. It also provides for maritime training regulation and seafarer welfare. Earlier on Monday, the monsoon session began with the Lok Sabha paying tribute to the victims of tragic Pahalgam terror attack and the recent Air India crash in Ahmedabad, with the major update coming from the Lok Sabha, which has decided to dedicate 18 long hours for discussion on Operation Sindoor. The decision by the Business Advisory Committee came after Defence Minister Rajnath Singh stated that the government is ready for discussion, but only as per the rules set by the Speaker. Now, Speaker Om Birla also expressed strong displeasure over repeated disruptions by the opposition. While in the Rajya Sabha, some legislative work did proceed. The leading bill was taken up and passed even as opposition members voiced concerns. Both the houses will reconvene today at 11 a.m. local time, expecting to conduct legislative businesses smoothly across the week. And to get you more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent Dipyendu Mondal from New Delhi. Good morning, Dipyendu. We saw that Minister Sarbanand Sonowal is all set to present important bills in both the houses of the Parliament today. But apart from that, the bigger question is that how smooth will both the houses be able to run, isn't it, Dipyendu?
Well, Deepika, absolutely. Yesterday, the first sitting of the monsoon session of Parliament was marred with repeated disruptions from the opposition's benches. And, the Parliament had to be, in fact, the lower house was adjourned thrice since it convened at 11 a.m. yesterday. And, even when, the Speaker Om Birla tried to hold some sort of discussions at about 4 p.m. When it began, in fact, when it reconvened, for the sittings after two disruptions since morning. The situation remained the same. And, the House was adjourned and it will now reconvene at about 11 a.m. this morning. And of course, it is very, very important to see how the opposition behaves what the strategy of the opposition would be in both the houses of parliament, given the fact that their primary demand of a debate and discussion on Operation Sindoor has been met by the Business Advisory Council of the Lok Sabha, and the Lok Sabha has dedicated about 18 long hours for discussions on the important matter of Operation Sindoor. And remember, both the Prime Minister as well as the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh did categorically mention yesterday in the floor of the House that the government is ready for discussion on any matter of importance of national security, and therefore the government would follow the rules and protocols of the parliamentary traditions and therefore the Business Advisory Council meeting was convened, and it was decided in this meeting that 18 hours will be dedicated to the discussion on Operation Sindoor. After doing this, the primary demand of the opposition has now been met, and now it will be interesting to see whether the parliament is able to function normally, because the opposition literally has nothing else on their table to put out as far as the demand is concerned in both the houses of parliament. But the sour point, of course, will remain to the fact that the opposition's demand of the Prime Minister coming and replying on the floor of the House is still not clear from the government side. But we'll have to wait, as I said, at about 11 a.m. when the parliament reconvenes, how the opposition strategy is framed. But as I say this, Deepika, the government side, the Treasury bench, is also formulating their strategy. And currently, as I speak, there is a meeting that is currently underway in the Parliament building with Rajnath Singh chairing the meeting with senior cabinet ministers and leaders of the BJP. And that meeting is absolutely crucial, because this perhaps would frame the strategy of the government on the floor of the House, given the fact that the opposition is has made up their mind, or perhaps it could be their strategy to disrupt proceedings of the houses. But the government has serious business to do in the parliament, and the government is hoping that they will be able to push through important legislation in this important session of the monsoon session of Parliament. Deepika.
Dibyendu, 18 hours discussion on Operation Sindoor, and we've been hearing the opposition of late also on their views on Operation Sindoor and what has been their stand. However, the country did stand united against India's fight against terrorism. But how important this becomes, because we also heard Prime Minister Narendra Modi before the beginning of the monsoon Parliament session, that how important and a great success this was for India, and how everybody came together, setting a very positive tone ahead of the monsoon session when he spoke yesterday. But after that, there was continuous ruckus and uproar, and as you mentioned, that the ruling government has clearly, pointed out that they are ready to discuss each and every topic in the House, which means they should come in the House and discuss and stop creating any sort of ruckus. How important this becomes when we look at both the houses, their smooth procedure, and the importance of these 21 days of monsoon Parliament session. Dibyendu.
Well, Deepika, you raised certain important points. Yesterday we in fact all heard what the Prime Minister did speak about to the media before the Parliament session, and the customary address by the Prime Minister. He did talk about how all political parties did rise above their partisan politics, their ideological politics, and stood as one for Bharat when it came at the most crucial time, such as like that of Operation Sindoor. And he also said that he expected that the opposition would rise above partisan politics for the development of nation and participate in a healthy debate and discussion in a parliamentary form of democracy. Of course, the opposition do have the right to raise voices against the government, but participating in debate and is a very, very important step, rather than holding the House hostage with their repeated sloganeering and jumping into the well. And therefore, this comes at a very important time when the government, as I said, is trying to push forward with important legislation such as the taxation amendment law, the Jan Vishwas bill. There are other legislative businesses that are slated in both the houses of parliament. So of course, it is very important for the opposition parties to help the government in running the House smoothly, because if you continuously keep sloganeering, it becomes very difficult for the treasury benches or for the speaker to conduct the smooth proceedings of the houses. But of course, it will all depend on the conscience of the opposition parties to see that the house functions. In fact, both the houses function smoothly. But having said this, Deepika, yesterday, as we also ran that news last night, the resignation of Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar due to health issues. So next, the election of the Vice President will be a key important issue that we need to we have to watch out for. Because it is customary that within the next 6 months, the position of the Vice President needs to be filled because it is a constitutional post and the constitutional post has to be filled by the government. In fact, by the parliamentary, in fact, all political parties will participate in that election, and therefore it is very important that the position is filled. And of course, the politics from now on will be able to see in both the houses as to how it shapes up once the parliament reconvenes at 11 a.m. this morning.
All right. Thank you so much, Dipendra, for joining us and bringing us the latest on monsoon session of the parliament. Well, after Axiom-4 mission, the next space mission that all space scientists and enthusiasts are waiting for is the NISAR, the NASA-ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. On the 30th of July at 17:40 hours as per Indian Standard Time, ISRO's GSLV F-16 will launch NISAR, which is the first joint Earth observation satellite by ISRO and NASA from Sriharikota. NISAR will scan the entire globe every 12 days, providing high-resolution, all-weather, day and night data. It can detect even subtle changes in Earth's surface like ground deformation, ice sheet shifts and vegetation dynamics. The mission will support many critical applications including sea ice monitoring, ship detection, storm tracking, soil moisture changes, surface water mapping and disaster response. A milestone marks an over a decade of collaboration between ISRO and NASA. Now, NASA on Monday held a press conference on NISAR mission where Wendy Edelstein, the Deputy Project Manager of NISAR at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, enumerated the features of this mission. Take a listen.
Right now, the NISAR satellite is in India in its final preparations for launch, coming up on July 30th. I wanted to orient you to what NISAR is before we get too far along. So over here is a 1/3 scale model of what NISAR will look like when it's on orbit. What you see here is the spacecraft bus is this square cube over here on the right, and that's what provides all the services to operate the satellite. These solar array panels are attached to the spacecraft bus, and that's for powering the system. Now, this octagonal gold structure, that's what houses the two radar systems, and I'll talk more about those in a moment. But the radars are then used to illuminate this very large antenna you see here, and that's probably the most prominent feature that the NISAR satellite.
And the first of its kind collaboration between NASA and ISRO comes with the pinpoint Earth observation capabilities that assures a revolutionary update in Earth imaging. The NISAR satellite is poised to transform Earth observation with 3D imaging of land and ice. NISAR is all equipped with dual synthetic aperture radars. Now, these synthetic aperture radars, or SARs, will detect surface changes down to mere inches. Now, its powerful 39-foot antenna captures reflected microwaves. NISAR has the ability to function day or night through clouds and light rain. Now, with its ability to track earthquakes in real time and scan Antarctica's shifting ice sheets, thus we can say for now that NISAR promises game-changing insights for science and disaster preparedness. So NISAR is all set to redefine how we prepare for natural and human-caused disasters. By detecting subtle shifts in Earth's surface, it offers a sharper lens on earthquake activity and volcanic behavior. The satellite's continuous coverage will help safeguard critical infrastructure like dams and levees. With real-time data and predictive insights, NISAR gives decision-makers vital lead time to assess risk and respond swiftly. No wonder NISAR is there to enhance disaster resilience worldwide. Beyond forests and farms, NISAR's radar will also scan the oceans, tracking the movement of glaciers and ice sheets. Now, this is crucial for understanding sea level rise, a growing threat to coastal cities worldwide, while helping monitor ecosystems around the world. And the mission's two radars will also monitor Earth's land and ice-covered surfaces twice every 12 days. Now, near comprehensive coverage will include areas not previously covered by the satellites. The S-band radar can monitor crops. NISAR's L-band radar penetrates deep into the forest canopies, providing insights into forest structure. Data will help researchers assess how forests, wetlands, agricultural areas, and permafrost change over time. Now, most advanced radar system ever launched. NISAR's main body contains a dual radar payload. The L-band system is from NASA. The S-band system is from ISRO. Both radars included on one spacecraft for the first time. Data will exemplify how collaboration can achieve more than either would alone. Radars will generate about 80 terabytes of data products per day over the course of NISAR's prime mission. The information will be accessible to all. The NISAR mission marks the first collaboration between NASA and ISRO on a project of this scale and marks the next step in a long line of Earth-observing SAR missions. While the NISAR satellite features components developed on opposite sides of the planet by engineers from ISRO and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory working together. After engineers from JPL and ISRO integrated NISAR's instruments with a modified ISRO I-3K spacecraft bus and tested the satellite, ISRO transported NISAR to Satish Dhawan Space Station in May 2025 to prepare it for the launch. The SAR technique was invented in the US in the year 1952, and now countries around the globe have SAR satellites for a variety of missions. NASA first used the technique with a space-based satellite in 1978 on the Ocean Observing CSAT. In 2012, ISRO began launching SAR missions. ISRO's SAR missions support a wide range of applications across India. Moving on, the 20th Asia Media Summit began in the Cambodian city of Siem Reap on Monday, where President of the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, or AIBD, General Conference and Prasar Bharati, Chief Executive Officer Gaurav Dwivedi presented a special remark at the inaugural session. He stressed that rapid evolution of artificial intelligence is transforming content creation, newsroom management and audience engagement. Gaurav Dwivedi further said that at Prasar Bharati, AI-driven solutions are being used in newsrooms, automating content curation, enhancing fact-checking and personalizing viewer experiences. He further added that these innovations allow journalists to focus on in-depth storytelling while ensuring accuracy and speed. The Prasar Bharati Chief Executive Officer also mentioned about the recently concluded inaugural World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit, or WAVES. WAVES, a vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, brought to life to chart the path forward for India's creative economy. He said that with participation from over 100 countries, more than 1 lakh visitors and over 3,000 companies, WAVES truly became the confluence of cultures, technologies and storytelling traditions from around the world. At the heart of WAVES lies a deep commitment to building a sustainable, inclusive and future-ready ecosystem for creators, whether in films, music, OTT platforms, gaming, digital media or immersive storytelling formats.
Media content creation through AI-powered tools and the digital newsroom masterclass, I believe, will equip our teams with the latest skills in digital journalism, data storytelling, and ethical reporting. As the media landscape evolves, the principle of universal access remains at the heart of public service broadcasting. In India, our DD platform has brought free, high-quality television content to over 50 million households.
The 13th high-level meeting between the Indian Coast Guard and the Korean counterpart was held in New Delhi on Monday. Both the sides engaged in discussions to boost cooperation in maritime search and rescue, pollution response and maritime law enforcement. They also reaffirmed their commitment to share best practices and enhance interoperability under the 2006 MOU. As part of the visit, the Korea Coast Guard delegation will travel to Mumbai from the 23rd till the 24th of July for an industrial visit to Mazagaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited and to an ICG patrol vessel aimed at strengthening maritime industrial and operational linkages. Time to take a quick and short break. We'll be right back.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Now it's time to get you all the latest from the world of sports. To begin with chess. India's Divya Deshmukh defeated compatriot Harika Dronavali on tie breaks to enter the semi-finals of FIDE Women's World Cup 2025. Divya drew both Game 1 and Game 2 of the quarter-final round against Harika to take the contest to tie-break round. Divya went on to beat her senior in consecutive games in tie breaks to book her spot in the semi-final, where she will meet China's Tan Songye. Divya joins Koneru Hampi in the last four stage. Hampi beat China's Yuxin Song in the quarterfinals to become the first Indian to enter the semi-final stage of the World Cup. Hampi will face China's Li Tingche in the Game 1 of the semi-finals beginning on Tuesday. In cricket, Indian women's cricket team is all set to clash with England in the series deciding third one-day international at Chesterley Street on Tuesday. Visitors India defeated England by 4 wickets in the first ODI but fell short in a rain-curtailed second ODI at Lord's to leave the 3-match series evenly poised at 1-1. The Indian batters have struggled against the English spin attack led by Eccleston, who took a 3-for in the second ODI. India will eye a comeback and try to find the rhythm they had in the first game, where they chased down 259 with 10 balls to spare. The series is significant for both the teams as the ODI World Cup is scheduled to start in 2 months' time. In men's cricket, Indian pacer Mohammad Siraj confirmed that spearhead Jasprit Bumrah will play the 4th test against England, which begins in Manchester on Wednesday. India will be bolstered by the presence of Bumrah, who has snapped 12 wickets from 2 tests and is coming on the back of a strong display at Lord's. The team management has decided to include Bumrah in the playing 11 as England lead the 5-match series by 2-1. A victory in Manchester would give England an unassailable 3-1 lead. To prevent that, India will play Jasprit Bumrah, who skipped the second test, rather than preserve him for the final test at the Oval. Meanwhile, wicketkeeper batter Rishabh Pant's availability for the 4th test is also under scanner after he suffered a blow to his index finger during the Lord's test. Moving on. Rice is not just a meal in many parts of the world, it's a tradition, a way of living around which life revolves. Rice is a very common sight in festivals, customs, rituals and languages in cultures that commemorates each milestone of rice production. The Nabhoi Rua of Assam is one such significant occasion of planting new rice saplings that tells about how important is the beginning of the farming cycle for the farmer, especially in Assam. DD India correspondent Subina Roy gives us a telltale on the Nabhoi Rua occasion of Assam along with the unique varieties of rice available in the state.
The months of Ahar and Haun, July and August have arrived. The beginning of the farming cycle is a deep spiritual and communal celebration of life, soil, sustenance in Assam and is revered as Nobhui Rua. At the first break of the day, the farmers step barefoot into the softened earth, carrying prayers of hope for a bountiful harvest. The conditions in the Brahmaputra Valley are very much apt for the growth of agriculture, especially paddy cultivation. As a result, agriculture was already the base of sustenance in this area and also the main source of revenue for the preceding Kamrup dynasty and later the Ahom dynasty. Apart from these four essential types, many other unusual forms of rice like chakwa, bora and joha are found in Assam. Chakwa, also known as magic rice, and the semi-glutinous winter rice is also classified as bora and kumul rice. It also forms an essential ingredient of the gastronomical cuisine of Assam, which includes various forms of rice, cakes, pitas, and the traditional rice beer that is brewed locally and known as has. The peculiarities of the rice varieties like chakwa, bora, saul, joha rice is so unique that they have been able to garner the prestigious GI tag for Assam. Rice is not just a meal in many South Asian countries, but it is the central theme of society around which revolves life. Many customs, festivals are associated right from the planting of these saplings, which is reflected from the lush green rice fields, which turn from green to golden over a period of time. We dedicate Dibrugarh team, Sabina Roy, TD India.
And that's all for this edition of TD India News Hour. Thank you so much for joining in. Namaskar.